Welcome to the Coaching Life podcast. How you doing, Coach?
I'm having a good evening. I'm in progress here. I'm walking around the outside of a baseball diamond as I'm talking to you. So I'm trying not to look too silly, holding the phone up and talking with your voice projecting out loud also, and people looking at me saying, "What is this cat doing?" Okay, here we go. Now I'm dead center right now. So I wish I could send you a video. So no, I came up to Lancaster tonight, Lancaster, Ohio, here to watch my brother coach his team, the Mid-Ohio Raptors, against. They just happened to be playing Athens 13-year-old team, and so it's April and I thought, let's just go up there and watch this ball game since, why not, right? It's a baseball game. So,
absolutely.
So watch my nephew play. Watch these kids from Athens that April's had in class at the Athens Middle School. And we've gotten to stand around and visit with a bunch of friends, so it's been nice. A lot of people what? A lot of people out here at the ballpark at Fisher Catholic High School.
Yeah. Have you thought at all about the fact that the thought may have entered your mind over the past 2 months or 3 months that you wouldn't have the opportunity to do what you're doing right now?
Oh yeah, I've thought about that.
Yeah,
I've thought about that, and it just creates a feeling of gratitude in my own, my heart and in my mind that we're actually able to do it. And I find myself, continually still getting frustrated by, again, 'cause it's not the same everywhere, right? I mean, there are certain aspects about the game that you're used to that you're not doing. Like I enjoy going through the line at the end of the game and shaking hands and talking to the other kids that competed hard against us and giving a little pat on the back and saying, sharing a couple things that I saw that I thought were really exceptional. And you just can't do that when you're standing over in front of your dugout, waving your hat at them. It feels a little disingenuous to even do that, but I understand. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. I've had the opportunity to go to a few baseball games myself, and I don't know that I would say I appreciate them more, but I definitely recognize that I appreciated them. So
yeah,
the opportunity to do so, and
yeah, I agree.
It was a good environment. So
yeah,
it's good stuff.
It's certainly better than not. Not being able to, right?
And there's a lot of things that we're dealing with. I mean, we've talked about kids' safety and getting back on the field safely, and how the challenges that poses, and there's scheduling conflicts, there's facility things that we're dealing with, there's umpire shortages because a lot of umpires have said, we're not gonna deal with it this year, for whatever reason, whether they don't want to mess with the the narrative or whatever you'd like to say with the virus out there, or they truly believe that it's dangerous and they don't want to be around large groups of people for whatever reason. Umpires here and there are saying, I'm just going to take the summer off, So there's a lot of these things that we're dealing with that we aren't accustomed to dealing with, but it just, I don't know, for whatever reason it just seems like it's okay, just okay because we're having the opportunity to do it. So
I will say this. In the games that I've been part of, and as a coach, I've been able to have. Well, what have we played now? 8 ball games, I think, are the team that I'm working with.
Mm-hmm.
And the games that I've come to watch, my nephew's team play, like here tonight. And it's still true tonight. This game has one umpire. I mean, it's an official game. I mean, it's a game that they've. It's not a scrimmage. They put this on whatever their schedule is, and he's not made every call, but there's not been a single person. I mean, people sitting behind the backstop, some strikes that look pretty good. He's calling balls, and some balls that don't look very good. He's calling strikes, but I haven't heard anybody complain. I haven't heard. So that's been a blessing, really. I think that people still feel that sense of, hey, it's just nice to be out here, and we get it. This guy's by himself, and I heard a little bit of groaning this weekend at the tournament that I was at. Once people realized, oh yeah, okay, he's calling a little bit outside and a little bit high, a little bit low. That's all right, and it wasn't. I heard a little bit of moans on a couple pitches, but that was it,
Yeah.
and there were, there were just, I think the general overall feeling was we're just all glad to be out here, and the kids are enjoying themselves and they're learning the game and they're getting the experience, and it's a good thing. Just hopefully it can continue.
That's a good thought there, because what I was going to say is, one, I haven't had the opportunity to be out at any tournaments, any type of, I guess it's always competitive, especially when you're playing someone else. But maybe if you're playing for something, you're playing for a place or something like that, and
right,
if there's a difference than what we've had in the past. I know the league that we're running locally here, we are planning to do some tournaments, and I'm just wondering how that might. It's a league tournament or a travel tournament or whatever it is you're talking about. It kind of raises the bar on things a little bit, in a lot of people's minds. Makes it more important.
Things intensify, of course. When the stakes are a little higher. When you call something a tournament and you're playing for to be eliminated or to advance, then I think that intensifies things, and I like that. I mean, I like the competitiveness, the competitive aspect to it, and everything. But I think at the same time, it's important to just continue to keep that over that large perspective as well that we have when we play these other games that are not part of tournaments. Because really, in the grand scheme of things, what is the difference, right?
Exactly.
I mean, no one's really going to remember what you did in a tournament, in the middle of summer 2020 when you were 13 years old, right?
Right.
That's not the issue. Yeah. But I will say this, Pat. I talk about intensifying and knowing where, understanding that there is a difference between having a competitive fire in your belly and needing that to well up in you versus, I guess, knowing when well, I guess now too, I'm talking about kids. I'm not talking about parents. So I got a story for you.
Okay, good.
This past weekend at the Chillicothe tournament, my team was playing against another team that was I would say that they were better than us. I mean, from top to bottom. That they weren't world beaters by any means. We could have played them a little closer, but we've had some struggles throwing and catching the ball. If you struggle throwing and catching the ball, then that's going to be a problem, because the main issue in the game of baseball and softball is the team that can throw it and catch it the best is the team that's going to win more often than not. And that's I mean, if you take any of your number of your losses and you boil them down to what you could have done differently to avoid losing the game, it probably comes down at some point to a ball that you threw poorly or a ball that you didn't catch. And so we just, it's one of the things that we're emphasizing this summer is never take a day off from play and catch. Just get out there and throw and catch. We spent an entire hour in one practice doing different types of drills that just basically had them throwing and catching. And these are high school kids, But I said, why work on strategy when we could have the greatest strategy in the world in the game, but if you can't throw it and catch it, that means you can't execute our strategy. And so what we've got to do is we have got to go back and throw and catch it. So anyway, that's a tangent. Because we were having trouble throwing and catching, we gave them a bunch of runs. We found ourselves down 12-1. All right. So it's 12-1, and it's we're in the top of the fifth. So the mercy rule will come into effect if we don't score 2 runs in the bottom half of this inning. So in the top of the fifth, 12-1, and it's kind of obvious, I think, that we probably were not going to do that. The way the game was feeling, that the other team had the game in hand, right?
Sure.
And so they got a runner on first. Somehow, I think maybe a kid hit a base hit, and they had a runner on first and third. So I'm like, okay, runner on first and third. And they run a double steal. It's like, all right, okay, cool. 12-1, run a double steal, no big deal. and the field first and third play. So no 5 minutes later, we find ourselves in a first and third situation again, with less than 2 outs. And so this is something we actually did work on in practice last week, our double steal defense. And so we called a play where we had the second baseman cut in front of the bag. He's just supposed to, read that runner. If that runner breaks for home, he's going to cut it. If the runner does not, he's going to let the throw go through, and we're going to try to get the out at second because shortstop's covering the bag at second. That's pretty much my go-to play on that for high school kids. And so they ran this to perfection. Kid stole again. Now it's 13-1. Kid stole again. The kid at third base does break for home after the catcher threw it. Our second baseman cut the ball off, and we had this boy dead to rights at home plate, and he just couldn't get the ball out of his glove. He double clutched it, and then once he got it out, he rushed the throw and he short hopped it to the catcher, and we still had time to get him, but the catcher didn't catch it clean, and so he was safe, and so they scored another run on that double steal. Yep. Well, I was happy with how we executed that because I believe that it was a positive that we, it was just a little simple thing that caused them to not be able to get that out, and so I'm glad that we got a chance to work on that. Now, the other side of me. The old school baseball side of me is thinking to me, I'll tell you right now, if I'm 15 years old and I'm out there pitching, the next kid's going to wear one in the back. That's just what I was thinking in my mind, right? You just
because they're double stealing up.
Yeah. I mean, come on, coach. But I don't say that kind of stuff out loud, and I don't, because in my honest opinion, it's our job to get you out. So running up the score and bull crap like that, I really don't care. I don't complain about that kind of stuff. Right. But there is something about it that builds up that fire in your belly that it makes you mad, just to be really honest. It's like, and this is what I liken it to. So basically, to make a long story short, when we got at the end of the game, when we took our team aside, after the game, and we talked with them about just some things we wanted to review before going, because it was a tournament. Normally I would wait and do this the next day, like at practice. I wouldn't talk about this stuff until the next day. But because we had another game that day, and I wanted to just mention that I want it to be a learning experience for them, I told them, I said, guys, I'll be really honest with you. I was angry at the end of that game, but not at you, and just really and it wasn't I didn't know, my anger wasn't directed at anybody in particular. Like it wasn't even directed at the other team or the other coach or anything. It was just angry at the entire situation because I couldn't get out there and do something about it. And what I meant was that I told them, I said, this is what I want you guys to learn about this. There's got to be a fire that builds in your belly when someone is bullying you on the field. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Did it feel like you're being bullied right there? And a couple of the kids nod their heads. And I said, what do you do about it? Right? I mean, what do you do about it? What can you do about it? And I said, that's what I want you to understand, is that you can do something about it. You can continue getting becoming as good as you can get at the general, the smallest fundamentals of the game, so that you can defend that kind of stuff, so it doesn't happen to you again. And I said, in the heat of that moment, I want to see that anger in some of you. I want to see that look in your eye, like, daggone it, you're not doing this to us again. We're going to throw your butt out, right. Or if we don't, we're going to knock the next guy down by throwing one a little bit inside, right? Or something like that. I would be okay with a kid thinking that, right? And I'm not saying like hit him. I'm just saying, the game, there's little nuance to the game, right? About stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah, there are.
I don't want to get
the more. I know what you're saying. I'll say.
Your fear getting myself in trouble. People saying, "Oh, he's saying hit other kids." That's actually not what I'm saying. I don't teach that. But there are aspects to the game. For example, one of the things that they did in the first time, actually, I forgot to tell you this. In the first and third double steal that they did in that inning, the kid at the plate squared the bunt. Mm. Right now, that's actually a pretty smart play on the offense's part, because then it brings two situations to light defensively that the kids have to learn how to defend, which is, well, if he does actually bunt this, what's our coverage? And this kid's also stealing on this pitch.
It freezes them too. It's kind of like a play action.
Yeah. So if you're not prepared for it as a defense, you know, that's a possibility, and you don't simplify your defenses. You know, usually teams that have about 8 different types of coverages just get this all screwed up when a team just simply bunts and tries to do a double steal at the same time. Mm-hmm. But if you keep it simple, then you can defend it pretty well. And so I just, when I told the kids, and I shouted this out loud, and then I wanted to make sure that I explained what I meant later after the game, because I said, you know, hey, in this situation again, which we got into that situation again, I said, if this kid squares the bunt, I want the pitch under his chin. I want it high and tight, right? Mm-hmm. And I want it that way for a couple of reasons. One, if they run a squeeze, like if the kid comes at the plate and they run a squeeze, I want this to be a really hard pitch to bunt. And the one that's coming high and inside is going to be really hard to bunt on the ground, right?
Yep, right.
And so he'll either miss it and the catcher will catch it. We'll have a chance to tag the kid out, or he'll make contact and pop it up, and we can maybe get a double play out.
He may not even try to bunt it at all.
He may not try to bunt it at all because it's coming inside, right? And so when I said that, one of the kids in the dugout looked at me and he said, "So are you saying you want the pitcher to hit him?" And I said, "No, not necessarily. I'm saying throw the ball high and tight, but if it does hit him, that's part of the game too, right? I mean, you're not trying to hit him." Right. But there's a reason why we want the ball placed where it's placed, because it's going to be a really difficult pitch to bunt. And I'm telling you right now, if they're suicide squeezing on you up 13 runs, then you can probably expect the ball to come high and tight, if they do it again.
This kind of goes back to a story that I had about being blocked on Twitter from our buddy Rob Dibble. Because Rob Dibble used to throw at people's heads, and
a nasty boy.
And there was a running joke about that he would throw at people's heads so bad things would happen. But there was a reason that he would throw at people's heads, and I made that joke to him one time on Twitter, and he blocked me for it. So it's like sometimes funny. People think, throwing at people or up and in or something like that is like this nasty part of baseball, and really there's a lot of strategy behind it.
It is, and that's I guess that's what I'm trying to explain is that it is part of baseball strategy, and I think that we live in a day and time when people are quick to say, well, the baseball is a weapon, and whenever you do that, you're using it as a deadly weapon. Because of that, you could kill somebody with it. And I understand that line of thinking if someone is intentionally trying to hurt someone with a baseball, right?
Right.
And so the problem. That's why, honestly, it's why a lot of high school pitchers struggle to throw inside, because they're scared of hitting kids.
Yeah,
they're afraid of hitting kids. And listen, if you can't establish the inside part of the plate, especially if you have a good fastball, then you're gonna allow hitters to dig in, and they're going to be able to cover the entire plate easily, because you're eventually going to make a mistake on the inside part of the plate, and they're already good at hitting the outer half, because that's where every high schooler sits. And these days they all just throw outside. So high schoolers are getting good at hitting the outer half, and so if you don't come inside hard, sometimes they'll just crush you, right? Yeah. And so. You've got to do that. I mean, that's one. I tell you, Pat, I'll be honest with you. I really think that's why some of our kids that threw harder at Athens High School were a little more successful, because we really worked hard. We wanted them to throw. We wanted them to throw the ball inside. I want you to get on the right side of the rubber. So kids were uncomfortable. Most right-handers would get on the outside edge of the rubber, and they pitched from that outside edge. And I said, "Why do you pitch out there?" Well, because I like hitting that outside corner. I said, "I get that, but." Start the game. If you throw hard and you've got a little bit of dominance over a hitter because they're a little bit fearful of you,
yes.
Then move over on that rubber to the inside portion of it and let him feel like you're right on top of him, because that fear is going to be used to your advantage. And it doesn't mean that you're trying to hit anybody. Right. It just means that part of the plate is yours, and you're going to establish that is yours.
That's great stuff. But we're disadvantaged because I've always said those hitting and pitching are their positions of authority and dominance. And if you can't apply both of those as you're throwing, you're at a disadvantage, right? So if you're afraid to throw the inside pitch, and the hitter's not afraid of your inside pitch because he knows you're not, you don't want to throw it, that's advantage hitter all day long.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a big. So you're getting into a mental part of the game there that it's hard to overcome those types of things.
Well, we're along the same line of thinking, Pat. As a pitcher, when you're always told if that hitter digs in and he gets too comfortable, what are you supposed to do? Knock him down.
Exactly.
Make him back up a little bit,
Yes.
right? And when we say knock him down, Mom, we're not saying hit him. We're saying throw inside. If he move him a little bit, make him move. That's why a lot of times, like when even my daughter Kaylee, when she was pitching, every now and then she'd throw a pitch inside, and the girl you'd see her back out. And I'm like, that's good. That's you make her move. She moves her feet. She moves a little bit. Her eyes move. Everything moves. She's thinking about maybe where the next pitch is going to be now. There's so much strategy involved in that. That I think it can get easily missed when we become so overly concerned with someone getting a bruise, right? With someone getting hit. And people don't understand how much being hit by the baseball, hit by pitch, is part of the game, both offensively and defensively. Well, I guess not as much defensively. You're given a free base. You don't want to hit somebody. I don't want to hit anybody on purpose.
No, absolutely right.
And so, I don't want to give up a free base, but flip flop that. Offensively, do you want to get hit? Heck yeah, you do.
Yeah, when I said that, you're going to get hit.
Yeah. When I said that to kids this week, I'm like, guys, we got to celebrate getting hit by a pitch. They look at me like I was crazy. And I said, guys, we had I'll tell you another story. We had a kid that was up. Bases, we had 2 runners on base, no outs. So runner on first and second, no outs. We're down 4 runs in the last inning. No, it was the second last. It was the 6th inning. So he comes up in the first 2 pitches. He takes swings that are really, really poor swings, right? I mean, he's out on his front. Kid started him off with a curveball. He was out on his front foot, looked really bad. And then the next pitch he took for a strike. And so he's having a bad at bat already. Well, the next pitch, the kid throws him a curveball again, so it's a lefty and it's a right-handed batter. That curveball starts inside, and so it's breaking right into him. Okay, so one thing, it's a curveball, right? So it's slower, and here's an opportunity for him to get out of this bad at bat. It's an opportunity for him to win this at bat instead of lose it. And he backs way up, like he jumps out of the way to get out of the way of it. And so, of course, everybody in the dugout's like, wear it, right? And he's looking around, and he didn't understand that that's actually a strategic move. Instead, that the kids were. I talked to him afterwards. I said, buddy, listen, we're not just shouting "wear it" to be like funny, right? To make it be fun. We really needed, the difference because what happened, he ended up striking out. Okay. So now we got an out, 2 runners on base. They're both still in double play situation. They're both in force out situations. And the difference could have been, you wear that pitch. We got no outs, bases loaded. You talk about the changing the complexion of a game by just simply getting hit by a pitch.
Actually, that's funny because I was talking to someone about quality at bats the other day. And we were talking about how being hit with a pitch is still considered a quality at bat.
Absolutely, it is.
And that's a perfect example right there of how it could be a quality at bat.
Oh,
you move runners, you save an out, you get yourself out of trouble.
Yes,
you do a lot of things in that situation there. If you have the mindset to go up there and to be able to take that pitch. But that's probably a coaching thing, Coach, because are the kids taught that at a young age? Are they taught to think about the situations that they're in and how to get out of them, and how they should be thinking in certain situations? And I would say in most cases they're not.
I've always thought that we should teach young kids how to get hit by a pitch. One is for their safety.
Yes,
because too many kids panic and they turn into the ball, like they open up.
Yep.
And when or if they just back straight up, right? And they they'll raise their hands and back up, which exposes their ribs, right?
Yep.
Or they'll kind of open up, and when you open up, everything that you don't want to get hit is in the front of your body.
Yes.
Right. Your face, your nose, your neck, your chest. That's really dangerous. Of course, your midsection. You don't want to get any of that hit. Your knees. But everything you do want to get hit, like everything that's not going to hurt, is on your backside. You got a lot of meat back there, right?
Yep.
And so if we teach them the proper way to turn, it feels like you're turning into a pitch when you turn that way as the ball's coming at you. But we've got to teach it to them, and get out there with tennis balls and teach them how to get hit by a pitch. Because what we end up doing is we end up not helping them in this very important aspect of the game, which is facing their fear of being hit. Every kid is scared to death to get hit. That's why 9U ball, 10U ball is so hard to play, because it's the first years they start getting hit by pitches, and then they spend 2 or 3 years stepping out, having poor hitting mechanics, right? hitting the ball late on the field because they're reluctant. They wait to see where the pitch is and then they decide to swing. Right.
Yep. I would say the same thing is true from a defensive perspective too. And I think it all boils down to, like you said before, celebrate that. If you take a ball off the butt when you're hitting, that's a celebration point for the team. Everyone can get excited about that. If you're on third base and you take one off the chest,
right.
If it takes a bad bounce,
a bad hop, yes,
and celebrate that. That those are good things in baseball when you're able to, to make things like that happen. So that's a big thing that I would say a lot of people don't think about. Because the first thing you see when a kid gets hit or when a kid takes a hard ball is someone rushes out to him and says, "Oh, you all right? What's going on?"
Right.
And I think if we did make that more of a success, then
I'll tell you right now, you'll see it. Coaches, parents, you'll see it. You'll see it when you start doing that. When you start having, like, when that entire dugout erupts and cheers, when you take a ball off the chest at third base and you still make the play, even if you don't get the out or whatever, or if you get hit by a pitch and everybody cheers. I'll tell you the way this worked out with us this past week. We had a little guy on our team, one of our smallest guys on the team, got drilled in the back twice. All right. And the first thing, because we've talked about this, in essence, we practiced how to get hit by a pitch. Basically, we've talked about it. We talked about what we want them to do. So as soon as he got hit, everybody knows he's going to be all right. He's going to live. Yeah, it was a hollow sound. It was a thunk when it hit him, right? Right. But he's going to live. He's going to be okay. And so everybody erupted. That dugout erupted. And the first thing he did, it like energized him. He dropped his bat and he ran as hard as he could to first base. So when he's running as hard as he can to first base, guess what they're doing? They're cheering even louder. Yep. And he gets down there. So he gets around to third base. So I guess, it took him what? I mean, we got him around to third base. Maybe. So I'm guessing between the time he got hit, by the time I saw him, there may have been 3 minutes by the time he got to third base. I said, "Hey, buddy, it's been about 3 minutes since you got hit. Do you still feel it?" He's like, "Nah." I said, "See,
right.
that's that's it." He said, I said, "How long did it last?" He said, "Maybe 30 seconds, or probably even less than that, because as soon as he took off, he probably didn't feel it anymore, you know." Now he's feeling it today. I saw him this evening.
Was he sore?
He's got a big bruise. Yeah, his little brother was playing on the team tonight, and so I saw him. He's got a big bruise on his back, and he's got another one on his back. The other place he got hit was in the back of the arm. I thought it was his back, but it was like on the back of like his tricep.
In the tricep.
So yeah. So
better than the elbow, I guess.
It was different meat. Yeah, certainly better than the elbow. So,
that's good stuff. I tell you, this is we've covered a lot of great topics here. To reiterate, you mentioned there earlier in your story, being in a situation where you're being bullied on a field, and I think there's and you answered the question. How do you do? I think there's two ways you handle. One, you're either in the heat of the game, you're either not focused, you're either not, mentally performing, you're not focused, which is something you control. Maybe your attitude's not right, your body language is bad, and you're allowing it to happen to you there. There are times that you're talented enough as a team or as an individual, as a player, to not allow another team to beat you as bad as what they are, right? But so you can control it in that way. And the flip side is, how do you control it? You control it in practice. All right. So all the hurt that comes and all the embarrassment, if you want to call it that, or all the heartache that you're feeling out there on the field, you store that energy up and you remember it when it comes to practice time. And then you gave a great scenario that you ran your steal, double steal move defensively, and you executed it well, but your player couldn't get it out of his glove, and that's understandable because he's under pressure to do it. He's trying to do it quick, but man, you pull out your notebook right then, and you're like, okay, we need to work on quick transfers. We need to work on pressure field transfers in practice. So then you put a runner out on first, you put a runner out on third, and you reenact, you simulate that game situation to so that they can practice pulling that ball out of their glove, making a good throw, making a good catch, putting a good tag, all within, a time frame, all within the understanding that a runner's coming towards them. Because if you just do it in practice without those runners, without a time
that
frame,
pressure's not there. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So that's great stuff there. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
So, we talked about the thing that I thought of before we got on today. We're talking right now about mechanics and about strategy and about, practicing skills, essentially. I watched, and I know you've seen this, at least I think you have, because I know you're a big fan, but the Mark McGwire 30 for 30.
Buddy, I was there. I lived it.
I know.
I lived it live.
I watched it the other day.
And not just was I in St. Louis, I was literally at the games. I have. This is a whole different episode if you want to talk about this.
Well, this is what I want to say.
That 30 for 30 yet, I can't wait to.
This is what I want to say because it's in context of. I don't know if you hear the helicopter going over my head right now, but it's in context of coming back into the game and how important the game is right now, as opposed to how things might change as we get into tournament play or as we get into next year or as we separate. But the one thing that stood out to me in that 30-30 was Mark McGwire was chasing his, the home run record. He was under tremendous stress, and
yes, he
was having stress from all these different places.
Yeah,
and he talks about Tony La Russa. And it just made me think because Tony La Russa is probably one of the greatest managers in MLB history, I would say.
I would agree.
And here's Mark McGwire, one of the greatest hitters in MLB history, and he talks about how Tony La Russa helped him during his home run year, during the year that he broke the home run record, not necessarily by mechanics or not necessarily
tweaking his mechanics, right?
Yeah, but he did it. He was there talking to him about the stress that he was under and what he was dealing with as a person, person. So it stood out to me because here's Tony La Russa, great manager. Here's Mark McGwire, great hitter. But it's something we talk about all the time as coaches. The bigger picture is always that person and the way that we can impact their lives, positively in that regard. So, all kinds of stuff to think about here, on this episode. But there's always ways to help our players get better.
Absolutely. Well, man.
I heard
game's
something.
Over.
I just heard today. Did they throw
up it down?
Yeah,
game's over. Yep. Yeah. Family members looking at me, wanting to know if I'm going to go congratulate them on the win. They got the win. So
they got the win. Well, you better.
Yeah. I will. I'll go over there. Hey, and I'll tell you what. On our next episode, I'm going to tell you a couple St. Louis stories. All right.
Okay.
I think they're entertaining. So hopefully our audience will like them too. So
I'm sure they will.
All right. All right.
All right, Coach. Sounds good. We'll catch up with you later.
It's great to talk to you.
You too, man.
Yep. Bye-bye.